Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar on social media marketing in the age of social distancing. My name is Josh Stevens. I'll be presenting this with my colleague Chad here in a minute, but before we get started, I do want to welcome you to today's presentation and go through a couple quick housekeeping notes. First is there will be no Q&A during today's presentation. We try to keep these to 30 minutes, and that format obviously doesn't quite allow for Q&A, but if you have any questions afterwards, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Also, at the end of today's presentation, you'll receive an email that will contain a link to a recording of the presentation in case you want to review it again, or if we happen to run a minute or two over and you have to drop right at the half-hour mark, you can catch that last minute or two. Lastly, before we begin, as always, the materials in today's presentation are for informational purposes only and are not legal advice. Everybody's circumstances are different. The types of ads you're using, because we're going to be talking about advertising today, are going to need to be reviewed by an attorney. We're going to give you some good tips and tricks, but obviously consult your attorney. So as I mentioned, my name is Josh Stevens. I'm a senior attorney here at McMurray. My practice is primarily in the areas of privacy, data security, telemarketing, and marketing and advertising generally. I'll be presenting today with my colleague, Chad. Chad, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for being a part of this presentation. My name is Chad Blackham. I'm a junior associate with the firm. I've been here for about 3 years. My primary practice groups are financial services, litigation, attorney general investigations, and I've also recently been helping grow our cannabis, CBD, and hemp practice group.
Which is, I think, one of our more exciting practice groups here lately, given everything going on in the world. So let's get started. And Chad, I think as we get going here, the question that's on a lot of people's mind is, why is social media marketing so important, especially right now?
Well, Josh, I'm glad you asked. So one of the biggest things we're seeing with the coronavirus situation is a massive increase in screen time. So I've got some statistics up here for you, and iPhones have a way of viewing your own increases in screen time over a couple-week period. I did it myself, and I would recommend that you do not, because I did not like what I see. But what we're seeing is a lot of individuals, particularly younger individuals, are now spending much, much more time looking at their phones. What this means for you guys is the avenues and the methods of delivering advertising and the methods of engagement with consumers, particularly during the current COVID crisis, is changing rapidly. And we're going to see a little bit how certain social media platforms are playing into this and what you can do to advertise on those platforms. So we go for the next slide, please. Thank you. So just example of some of these changes in the types of engagement. Video game usage is up 75%, which is massive. I can tell you I'm contributing a fair amount myself to that. Other types of organizations, sports in particular, switched to completely online matches as a way to maintain their consumer base and continue to connect with consumers even as stadiums remain empty. And you'll see in that last slide a very big increase in social media usage, which many people have already been using a fair amount. 27% engagement on TikTok alone. And for those of you who do not know what TikTok is, that's probably a good thing. But we'll delve into that very shortly in what this particular app is, the explosion in popularity it has seen over the past couple of years, and how you can use that for your own marketing and what that means for how you're going to increase your own engagement with consumers. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we're going to start off with the big one, right? Facebook. So everybody knows Facebook. Everybody has one. Everyone knows all their friends have one. And even people who don't really use social media tend to have Facebook for just, events and gatherings and things of similar nature. Now, what's important about Facebook is, and we're going to see this in contrast to TikTok very shortly, the fastest growing user base is actually older individuals, 65 years and up. Now, that's very interesting for a couple of reasons. One, older individuals, really anyone who's not young, is less likely to use social media. So this is kind of a interesting demographic that you're going to have greater access to on Facebook. Additionally, Facebook users tend to be high-income earners. I was quite frankly shocked when I saw 74% of Facebook users make over 75K. That seems very, very high to me. But what this means for marketing is you have a affluent, older user base. And for many marketing purposes, that's one of the prime groups you want to market to. They've got the money, they've got the wherewithal, and they're looking to spend. So if we could go to the next slide, please, we'll see how this is in contrast to TikTok. So TikTok, very briefly, for those of you who do not know what it is, and again, I would consider that a positive. I very recently learned what it was as well. TikTok is about 1 year, year and a half old, at least in the US. And what's remarkable about it is the average TikTok, the most popular type of TikToks, are 15 seconds in length. That's incredibly brief. And if you look here, the primary user base for TikTok is aged between 16 and 24, which for many industries, video games is an example, to go back to that earlier slide, that's an incredibly prime group that you are looking to target. Now, one of the things that TikTok has that's different than Facebook, and I find interesting, is, and I'm sure some of you who use Facebook or Instagram have seen this, but they have a special formatting for ads. It'll say sponsored, or it'll be in a unique type of box. While TikTok does have ads in between the individual videos, what I've been seeing is a lot of these individuals who are influencers or endorsers, they're not properly disclosing that they're advertising a product. And as Josh is going to discuss in a bit, advertisements and endorsements have to be disclosed in a way that would make a reasonable consumer able to view them. You're going to run into unique issues on TikTok, because if you simply have a hashtag ad at the bottom on a 15-second video, would a reasonable consumer be able to view that in time? So we're seeing some interesting issues with this, and there's a couple of lawsuits that started to sprout up. But based on the demographics and the absolute explosion in TikTok use, I mean, 52 minutes per day on the app when an average video is 15 seconds is remarkable. But what we're seeing then is that this is a very unique user group exploding in popularity that also brings its own perils in terms of how to accurately market to them. But that being said, the companies that are able to do so effectively have actually seen revenue that they've directly tied to their TikTok advertising. Next slide, please. So, Josh, to that point, the regulators are always at the concern of people's minds, and I've talked about some of the issues that people face with TikTok and also with Facebook. But you know, nonetheless, people want money. They want their user groups. They're going to advertise regardless on these platforms. So, I think it's helpful. What are some of the issues that the regulators are going to be looking at, so our clientele and our attendees right now can learn how to stay afloat of the regulations?
Yeah, thank you, Ted. You were already talking about one of them, which is the use of influencers and celebrities who are giving endorsements, either formal endorsements or what I might call sometimes product placement type ads without proper disclosure. You know, a couple of years ago, in 2017, the FTC first kind of came down on this issue by sending 90 warning letters to various marketers and influencers, reminding them about the FTC's endorsement guides. And if anybody here uses celebrity endorsements or even consumer testimonials or endorsements, it's really important that you do review the FTC's endorsement guides. But one of the biggest components here of those guides is that there has to be disclosure of any material connection between the endorser and the advertiser, the product being advertised. And that connection doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, although that's the most common. It could also be some sort of business or family relationship. Maybe the influencer owns a certain portion of the company. Could be a gift or a free product. You know, we have seen companies that will offer, for example, credits to customers in exchange for nice endorsements, right? And that connection needs to be clearly and conspicuously disclosed. An example of this, and this is something where I find a lot of people are doing this right. I'm a hobbyist photographer, and so I will watch
He's
YouTube.
actually very good.
Well, thank you, John. I will watch YouTube videos of companies reviewing different cameras, lenses, systems, so forth. These people are influencers. They have lots of followers who hang on every word of their reviews. And most of them do a really good job of saying at the start of the video, for example, if the camera company allowed them to use this new camera for free for a weekend, or if they went on site, let's say, to a convention to review this camera, and the camera company paid for that travel, they'll be really good about indicating that. And I think for a reviewer, especially, or something that's purporting to be a review, it's going to be very important that they disclose that, because people are really hanging on that. What happens sometimes, though, is you're not using a format that really allows for that sort of lengthy type disclosure. And so when we're talking about something more like a tweet or a Facebook post or a TikTok video, where we're more constrained, what the FTC has said, you can use hashtags. You can use hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored to show that relationship. And so, for example, on the screen, we have here a post from Kylie Jenner where she's promoting this watch from Daniel Wellington. And she indicates in the post here, hashtag ad, to disclose that this is an ad. She's getting paid to do this. You're going to see often, if the post is not coming from the company, right, where it's clear that it's an ad, you as the company that's getting the influencer to make the post, you need to impress upon them that they've got to comply with these requirements. Because if for example, Kylie Jenner here had not disclosed this relationship, but she's promoting this watch and she was compensated for doing that, then it's highly likely you could see an enforcement action if that happens multiple times, right? A regulator probably isn't going to get too up in arms if it happens once, but if you keep doing it, then that's going to be an issue. And while we always want to make sure that we are disclosing those relationships, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that these posts also cannot contain anything that's unfair or deceptive. And what I have seen happen a lot is influencers are given significant leeway by the company to craft their post, and then they end up making a statement or they say something in the post that is inaccurate. And because that was not cleared through the company first, it wasn't caught. And now you have an issue of, this post here has 4.6 million likes. So now you've got an issue of something that went viral, something a lot of eyes have seen that's inaccurate. So my recommendation for companies that do use influencers and posts from influencers is to continue to maintain control over that posting as much as you can, because it's going to come back on you, the company, if there's a problem. So have a good solid contract, require pre-review of the posts, or at least some sort of storyboarding or something if it's a video post, to make sure that those disclosures are getting in there. And have the influencer indemnify you if they don't include the mandatory disclosure.
Now, Josh, I've actually got a quick question about that. So after I become famous and go viral, when I get sent my Daniel Wellington watch, would it be enough for me to just say that they sent it to me, or would I also have to disclose the ad?
So I think the best practice would still be to include the hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored, because you don't know exactly how the person's going to be looking at this. And you want to make sure that the person realizes that there is a connection here, right? And it's not just merely, oh, I got this gift and I'm going out and doing this on my own. There actually is a relationship. So you're going to want to make sure that is disclosed when you get famous, Chad.
Got it. I will keep everyone in my thoughts and remember you all.
And before you get famous, while you are still just a mere customer, these same rules apply, right? So any financial relationship between the customer and the advertiser needs to be disclosed. And one of the areas where I've seen some issues happen with this are with unboxing videos, where somebody buys a product or it looks like they bought the product, right? And they open it and they film that, right? And they put it out and it's promoting that product. And in reality, that product was given to them for free. There was something on the back end. So you got to make sure that if you're using customer testimonials, that you are getting, you're putting up those same types of disclosures. And one of the questions that I get a lot with customer testimonials is, can I take something that a customer posted to social media and retweet it or share it and help try to make it go viral? And the answer to that is yes, you can do that. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that as soon as you have used your company's account to promote that post, anything that was said in that post is now going to be considered your speech for purposes of UDAP. So if there is, again, inaccuracy in that post, if the customer is making some representation about your product that is not true, if you promote that post, it's now as if you said it. And in fact, in 2015, the National Advertising Division of the BBB made a public statement related to a case on this point, where a beverage advertiser shared someone's social media post that was saying nasty things about their competitor. And the BBB highlighted that, again, once you've made this yours, if it couldn't be substantiated when it was the customer saying it, it can't be substantiated when it's you saying it, and now you're on the hook for it. And one of the areas where I see companies repackaging or retweeting or sharing social media posts are in these compilation videos. I don't know if you all have seen these, but the business will grab 4 or 5 videos that people have made about the product, or they'll grab tweets that have been, put out there about the product, and they'll put them together in like a little video, and then the company will put that video out. If you're doing that, make sure, setting all the copyright and licensing stuff aside, make sure that anything that's being said in there is true and accurate and capable of substantiation. And the FTC kind of summarized these points with these 2 graphics here on the screen, the do's and don'ts. I won't go over these in detail with you, but one that I do want to highlight is down on the bottom right-hand side, where it says, on image-only platforms like Snapchat, superimpose disclosures over the images. Again, and I think this plays in with TikTok especially, right, where people are making these little videos. You have to really give thought to, how do I disclose relationships in the format that this social media post is in? And how do I make sure that consumers see that, right? Because we want that disclosure to be as close to the claim as possible, right? So if we've got a text post that's talking about this Kylie Jenner's watch, we want to have that relationship disclosed in that text right next to that claim. If we've got, say, a video, we want that disclosure to be in the video part. We may also, though, want to include it in the text wrapper. So oftentimes For example, with YouTube, you'll have a video which somebody may be watching with sound on or sound off, and there will be a description of the video. Because there are different ways that that consumer might interact with that video, we need to take all of those into account. So just having an audio disclosure may not be sufficient, because that consumer could be watching that video with the sound off. So your marketing teams need to really think about the intricacies of each platform. Another place where companies run into trouble is they sometimes forget that consumers can access these platforms often on different devices that may have different capability limitations or screen size limitations. So when you're working to put these posts out there, make sure that they are coded correctly, make sure that you've worked with the platforms to get the disclosures where they need to be, regardless of whether the consumer is looking at Facebook on their phone or looking at it on desktop. And if it is a text-based post that you're working with that's going to have a lot of text, watch out for scrolling. The FTC has said that if the consumer has to scroll in order to get the disclosure, and there's nothing indicating to the consumer that there is an important disclosure that they need to scroll down for, that disclosure may not be clear and conspicuous. So you need to take that into account as well. Try to get those disclosures up front. In fact, that Kylie Jenner post, one of my issues with it, I liked that she had the hashtag ad in there, but I would have rather seen it up front, right at the very start after her name, so that if a consumer saw that, there would be no risk that it's getting caught down below the bottom of the screen. It's going to be right there. And in addition to physical placement, we also have to think about timing. So these disclosures obviously need to be given before a consumer's decision to buy something. And I know, like on Facebook, for example, you can buy things through Facebook. So you can see a post, an ad, and then you can click to like get offer or engage with it in a way that's going to lead to a purchase decision. So we want to make sure that those disclosures are at minimum before the consumer's decision to buy. But one of the things comes in with, you see an ad and the purchase is going to happen somewhere else. So say you've seen an influencer ad for Coca-Cola. Nobody's buying that Coke online. I mean, some people might get it through groceries online or something, but most people, they're going to go to the store and buy that. So you really want to make sure that disclosure that was an ad, not just a fancy celebrity drinking a Coke, because, you know, why not? You want to have that disclosed definitely in that ad. You may need to repeat the disclosure, like I mentioned with YouTube, might need it to have it audio in text, and then you might want to repeat it at the beginning and the end so that consumers are aware of it. And time so that consumers are not distracted. I say you really need to put those disclosures early in your post or at the start of videos so that the consumer sees them before they are way too distracted by what's going on screen. We want them to be able to get that disclosure. And so with that, we've got a couple minutes left. We have 4 examples, and Chad, I will let you walk us through these of posts that might be doing good, may have some issues, just some examples to help you find how to apply these points in your marketing.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. And I would encourage everyone listening right now to go take a look at the FTC's endorsement guide after this is over, because Josh did a fantastic job synthesizing a fairly verbose and dense document. So with that being said, we are at my favorite point of the presentation, good and bad examples. So starting off here, we have a couple of bad examples. Now I have to start off, I never thought my legal career I would be speaking about the Kardashians, but here we are. So this first one, this gentleman on the left, he is affiliated with Kardashians, but if you look at the caption underneath his post, I just absolutely love this. It says, "Here you go at 4 p.m. EST, right below, caption, keeping up with my summer workout routine." So what happened here is this influencer literally just copy and pasted the entire content of the email he received from the marketing company. And even more egregiously, you will note there's no hashtag ad, no hashtag sponsor, no hashtag I was paid to do this or anything. That is a fairly bad example of not only just bad marketing on the influencer's part, but also illegal action that, given his status, the FTC might look into. What I think is interesting too is about an hour after this post went up, it was taken down and then put back up with the proper caption and with hashtag ads. So this is something that influencers are actually concerned about. You know, you're not going to take down a post that's already garnered some engagement unless you have to. Over here on the right, we have, it's a little blurry, but it's an endorsement from Kendall Jenner, another one of the Kardashians, I believe, who advertised Fire Festival. Now, for those of you who do not know what Fire Festival is, it is a infamously debunked festival put on by Ja Rule, of all people, that was supposed to take place in the Caribbean, I believe. What ended up happening is none of the performers showed up. The food was horrible. People were camping out in makeshift tents like they use for refugees, as opposed to the glamorous, glorious setting that was portrayed to them. And what's also kind of horrible about the whole situation is a lot of the people who showed up were stranded on the island with no way to get out because they didn't have proper services to take people out. They wanted to leave before the conclusion of the festival. So people were stranded there for about 3 days. And there's actually a Netflix special, I believe it's called Fire Festival, the Greatest Festival That Never Was, that does a deep dive into the issue. And some of the issues that Josh and I were talking about and are talking about aren't just hypothetical. Kendall Jenner, amongst a slew of other celebrities, are now facing some pretty heavy lawsuits with regards to these festivals because of the way they advertised it. And that's something you got to really look out for when you're advertising something or promoting an event. You need to do your due diligence. You need to investigate and make sure that everything is on the up and up. Otherwise, you're putting yourself at risk for a massive lawsuit. In this particular scenario, it's hundreds of individuals who were deprived of basic necessities. I'm very interested to see what the damages in that look like, because I firmly believe a lot of those individuals are entitled to compensation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But with that being said, let's move to some good examples. Now, you're probably like, Chad, why are you making me look at this one on the left? It's nightmare fuel. I'm going to be seeing that in my dreams for a couple weeks. And I agree, it's a little strange, but it's also an example of brilliant marketing. So for those who are unfamiliar with Snapchat, Snapchat has certain filters that allow you to change or alter your appearance, your look, your voice, similar nature. As you see in the bottom left corner, it says Taco Bell. So this is a Taco Bell sponsored face app. And quite frankly, I think it's brilliant. People are going to do it because it's funny and weird and topical, but more importantly, they're going to be posting it to their stories. They're going to be sending it to their friends. It's basically advertisement on behalf of the consumers for the company without the company having to really do any legwork. I just think that's a very brilliant marketing tactic. And we didn't have statistics on it, but Snapchat is another one of the apps that has really exploded in the past couple of years, right? We're seeing a massive increase in user engagement, not just amongst younger individuals and millennials and Gen Z individuals, but also older individuals too, who normally would be reluctant to use an app that's focused more on quick, active content. In contrast with something like Facebook, where you can post or do things at your leisure. And as we saw, that there's an increasing older user base for that, but Snapchat is increasing across the board. So it's an excellent marketing tactic if you use the appropriate methods of delivery. On the right here, we have another one. This is an example of a UPS Facebook post. You'll note it says get offer at the bottom, sponsored at the top. And as I mentioned earlier, Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms are making it easier for influencers and companies to toe the line with FTC's regulations, because these companies want to be compliant too. They don't want to be supporting content that could potentially get them in trouble if they're allowing it to be put on their website. So really, it's a fairly standard ad, but it's a perfect example of all the boxes you need to tick to really show that you are engaging in sponsored and content. And with that, I believe, last example, yep.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. And I have to say, I really like with the taco one, having the corporate logo right there on the screen makes it very clear who's behind that posting, right? Even if you're not paying
as if the taco wasn't enough.
Right, yeah, as if the taco and the hot sauce wasn't enough. So thank you all for attending today. As I mentioned, no Q&A, but if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Just want to let you know about our next 2 webinars. Next Thursday, we're going to have the top 8 questions employers should answer before employees return to work from this work from home environment. States are going to start opening up, it looks like, on May 1st. Some states are going to start letting people come back into the workplaces. So we wanted to touch on that. And then the following Thursday, we're going to be delving into biometrics and biometric privacy laws. This is something that a number of companies now are accidentally running afoul of with facial recognition technology and other sorts of tools that they didn't think were necessarily under biometrics, but we're going to be talking about that on May 7th. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you next week.